What happens when the soul is stripped of its illusions? When morality is no longer a compass, but a costume? When fear is more effective than virtue, and cruelty, if well used, is not a sin but a strategy? We often think of the soul as something sacred tethered to ideals like compassion, truth, and reason. Religion, poetry, and philosophy have long tried to wrap the human soul in a veil of virtue. But what if that veil is an illusion? What if the soul is not a beacon of morality, but a battleground of desire, fear, ambition, and self-preservation? In the Renaissance, a time of beauty and brutality, Niccolò Machiavelli emerged, not as a dreamer of perfect societies, but as a surgeon of the soul. He held no romanticism for what we ought to be. He simply observed what we are. While Plato imagined philosopher kings and Christian thinkers looked to divine justice, Machiavelli dragged the human soul into the light trough, calculating, conflicted. He was not interested in salvation, but in survival. His writings, often misunderstood as cynical or cruel, were in fact a kind of anatomical theater, a space where the soul was dissected with the tools of realism. He peeled back the skin of society, exposing nerves twitching with power, bones calcified by ambition, a heart that beats not with love, but with longing for control. Today, we will explore what Machiavelli truly believed about human nature, not as a mere political analyst, but as a philosopher of the soul. This is not a journey into politics. It is an autopsy of the human condition. Welcome to When Human Nature is Naked, Machiavelli's Anatomy of the Soul. Section 1. The Stripped Soul. What is human nature, really? Machiavelli did not ask what man ought to be. He did not sit beside utopians, imagining golden ages populated by noble hearts and pure intentions. No, he asked a far more dangerous, unsettling question: what is man, truly? And his answer was not wrapped in hope or illusion. It was cold steel, blunt, brutal, and piercing. Men are ungrateful, fickle, hypocritical, cowardly, and greedy. This wasn't bitterness, it wasn't pessimism. It was a mirror held up to the human condition, stripped of mythology and moral makeup. It was not misanthropy, it was radical realism. Machiavelli was not theorizing in a vacuum. He observed rulers betraying their allies for thrones, soldiers deserting the battlefield when courage no longer paid, merchants smiling in trade, but scheming in private, lovers swearing eternity while chasing momentary thrills. He saw patterns, predictable, repeatable, undeniable. Human beings, he believed, are not ruled by reason, but driven by two primal, pulsing forces, ambition and fear. These are the twin engines of the soul. And in his world, even reason, the supposedly noble faculties, merely the strategist of desire. It does not guide the will, it obeys it. Unlike Plato, who elegantly divided the soul into reason, spirit, and appetite, assigning virtue to harmony between them, Machiavelli slashed through the abstraction. To him, virtue was not a state of balance, it was a weapon, a fluid, adaptable force, what he called virtue. This virtue was not kindness or piety. It was power dressed in whatever clothes the moment required. It meant bravery when confronting chaos, cunning when facing deception, ruthlessness when mercy would bring ruin. It was not about being good, it was about being effective. The soul, Machiavelli believed, is a shapeshifter in a world of predators. It does not survive by purity. It survives by agility. It survives by understanding that the world does not reward saints, it rewards those who can read the weather of human nature and set sail accordingly. In the jungle of politics, in the wild forests of survival, the soul is neither angel nor demon. It is an actor, a tactician, a survivor cloaked in the illusion of conscience. Morality is a story we tell. Strategy is the law we follow. Section 2. Fear not love, the true currency of the soul. Among Machiavelli's most infamous lines is a question that still chills the bones of idealists and moralists. Is it better to be loved or feared? And the verdict delivered with the precision of a surgeon's blade. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you have to choose. This was not cynicism for its own sake. It was an autopsy of trust, a forensic analysis of the soul's architecture. Love, in his view, is delicate. It is built on sand and fleeting feelings, temporary gratitude, and the illusion of loyalty. Love demands maintenance. It depends on things staying good, easy, fair. But when the storm hits, when famine arrives, when danger knocks, love is the first to flee. People forget kindness. They erase favors. They abandon those they once swore to cherish. But fear does not forget. Fear has roots. It burrows deep into the spine. It commands attention, enforces memory, and anchors loyalty not in the heart, but in the gut. Machiavelli understood that love is voluntary, while fear is obligatory. Love is gentle. Fear has teeth. This is not an argument for tyranny. It's a recognition of how the soul actually functions. The human mind is more responsive to consequences than to kindness. We obey the rules not because we love them but because we fear what happens if we break them. Machiavelli also drew a sharp line between strategic fear and brutal cruelty. He didn't endorse savagery for its own sake. He warned against it. Uncontrolled violence breeds hatred, and hatred is dangerous. But a carefully measured, calculated, predictable disciplinary its order. It maintains stability. Mercy, in excess, invites betrayal. It signals weakness. But fair applied with precision keeps betrayal at bay. It builds structures the soul, respects. It creates a world where masks stay on, roles are played, and chaos is held at the gates. To rule a people or to manage a relationship with the world, the soul must understand this terrible truth. Fear governs longer than love lasts. Section 3. The Mask and the Self, Why the Soul Wears Disguises. In the court of life, sincerity is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. Machiavelli teaches that the soul does not walk through the world unarmed and unveiled. No, it wears masks. It speaks in half-truths. It smiles while it schemes. It is not a liar by nature, but a strategist by necessity. He writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This is more than political advice. It is a metaphysical insight. The self is not a static entity, is a performer on the stage of survival. And like any skilled actor, it knows the value of costume, of illusion, of staying in character. The world does not reward those who bare their souls. It rewards those who can adapt, conform, and manipulate perception. This is not because everyone is evil. It is because everyone is exposed. And exposure is dangerous in a world where others are also wearing masks, waiting, watching, weighing. Machiavelli's insight is disturbing. The mask we wear may eventually become indistinguishable from the face beneath it. The role we play to survive may, over time, become our reality. There is no firm boundary between authenticity and adaptation. The soul is malleable. It is shaped by fear, sharpened by desire, and painted by context. You smile at your boss. You nod at your rival. You flatter the one who holds the keys. Is this hypocrisy? Or is it intelligence? He would say, it is wisdom. The terrifying question is this: if you wear the same mask long enough, do you lose the face underneath? Do you forget who you were before the pretending began? Do you become what the world demanded you pretend to be? To Machiavelli, the soul is not lost when it deceives. It is lost when it forgets that it is deceiving. Section 4. Fortune and the Fight. The Soul Against Chaos. Machiavelli was not a philosopher of comfort. He did not whisper lullabies to the soul. Instead, he dragged it into the arena, bloodied and barefoot, and demanded it learn how to fight. At the heart of his realism was a confrontation with one of the most ancient forces of human history. To Machiavelli, Fortuna was not merely chance or luck. She was chaos personified, a storm dressed as a woman. She did not reward virtue, nor did she punish vice. She spun the wheel blindly, scattering kingdoms and elevating fools. And that, precisely, is why he said she must be dominated. He famously wrote, "Fortune is a woman, and if you want to keep her under, it is necessary to beat and illuse her." To the modern ear, these words are jarring, even offensive, but strip away the metaphor, and you'll see a profound truth. Machiavelli is not endorsing violence, he is demanding courage. He is warning us that life will not wait for your permission to be unfair. That fate does not care for your intentions, your prayers, or your dreams. It moves like water, wild, flooding, and indiscriminate. So what can the soul do? It must become a force in its own right. It must stop waiting for perfect timing, or divine justice. It must stop playing the victim. Because while the world may sometimes offer windows of opportunity, it is the bold those who break down the door who walk away with power. Machiavelli's soul is not passive. It is not a saint on its knees. It is a soldier on its feet. Every day, we stand on a battlefield we didn't choose. And those who hesitate, who cling to purity, or wait for certainty, will be crushed under the weight of Fortuna's whim. This is not pessimism. It's liberation. Because once you stop waiting for fairness, you begin to shape your own weapons. You begin to prepare not for the world you wish existed, but for the one that does. And in that space, in that ruthless acceptance, there is incredible power. For Machiavelli, the soul must be like the seasoned general, wary of illusions, prepared for betrayal, and yet always ready to strike when opportunity cracks the sky. Fortune favors the bold not because the bold are better, but because they are ready. Section 5. Religion, morality, and control the soul as a political tool. If fortune was chaos, then religion was order, but not in the way many would hope. Machiavelli saw religion not as a pathway to heaven, but as a tool forged on earth, a tool of control, a tool of obedience. He respected religion's power but not its claims of truth. He admired how it could shape armies, discipline citizens, and inject fear into the hearts of rebels. Religion, he believed, was one of the most effective political instruments ever invented. In his eyes, it was not faith that stabilized society, it was fear disguised as faith. Look closely, and you'll see how Machiavelli separates belief from utility. He doesn't ask whether doctrines are theologically sound. He asks, do they work? Do they maintain order? Do they tame the restless soul? Priests and princes, though cloaked in different robes, often serve the same master. Control. Both understand that fear, whether fear of hell or fear of exiles, a far more reliable motivator than love. Love fades, fear endures. Machiavelli pointed to the ancient Romans not for their worship, but for their wisdom. They wielded religion like a sword. They did not drown in dogma, they used it to discipline the public and legitimize conquest. Their gods served their state, not the other way around. In this way, morality becomes a mirror, not of eternal truth, but of political need. The moral codes we are taught may not be designed to liberate the soul, but to bind it, to channel its instincts into patterns of obedience, into rhythms that preserve power. This does not mean Machiavelli was anti-morality. He was anti-illusion. He believed that ethical systems must serve pragmatic goals. A belief that weakens a nation is a dangerous belief, even if it feels virtuous. An idea that makes the soul docile may comfort the masses, but it also leaves them vulnerable to tyranny. For Machiavelli, then, true wisdom lies in seeing through the veil. It is in recognizing when morality has become a leash, and it is in reclaiming the soul's autonomy, not to destroy order, but to question who benefits from it. Section 6. Legacy of a cold surgeon, why Machiavelli still matters. Machiavelli is one of the most misunderstood figures in the history of thought. His name has become shorthand for cruelty. His ideas are dismissed as cynical. But this is not the man who lived. This is not the thinker who bled ink in exile, stripped of power, desperate to awaken the sleeping minds of his generation. He did not teach us to be wicked. He taught us to see without flinching. He knew that sugar-coated philosophies made for pleasant reading, but dangerous policies. That the real world is not ruled by saints, but by strategists. His genius was not in inventing cruelty, but in revealing it. He was the cold surgeon of political anatomy. He cut into the body of power, exposing its muscle, its bone, and yes, its rot. He showed us that human nature, left unchecked, will always choose advantage over virtue, and that pretending otherwise is not noble, it is naive. In this age, an age of broken systems, failing institutions, and performative leaders, Machiavelli's clarity is not just relevant, it is essential, because we are still manipulated, still lied to, still governed by those who wear masks of morality while dealing in shadows. He does not offer comfort. He offers armor. And that may be the most honest gift any thinker has ever given. So what, then, is the soul, according to Machiavelli? It is not the light of heaven trapped in flesh. It is not a divine spark waiting for salvation. It is something far more raw. It is a creature of instinct, veiled in ambition, soaked in fear, twisted by history, and driven by desire. It adapts. It deceives. It survives. The Machiavellian soul does not kneel before illusions. It studies them. It wears them when needed. It rips them off when threatened. It knows that masks are not lies, they are weapons. This soul is not evil. It is awake. It is not cruel. It is alert. And in understanding this soul not as it should be, but as it is, we are given something rare, the power to build a world that works, not for angels, but for humans, not for fantasies, but for facts. Machiavelli didn't kill the soul, he stripped it bare, he unmasked it, he held up a mirror, not one that flatters, but one that reveals. And maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of true wisdom. Not to hate what we are, but to understand it deeply enough to master it. Because once you stop pretending you're pure, you can finally start becoming powerful.